The Cinnamon.
This is why you got to always introduce the episodes. I can't do that. If I do it, it sounds dumb. You do it, it sounds cool.
When I do it, sir, I'll have you know it also sounds dumb. I'm just going to keep drawing it out until that's just one episode. It's just going to be Cinnamon. This episode of Cinnamon was produced by Daryl Mansell, Elizabeth Davidson.
But the impressive thing is that you won't take any breaths. By the time you get to that point, you will have done the exercises. It'll be just this whole Zen episode. It'll just be like an sort of.
People are tuning in. Is this the episode he's going to do? Is today the day?
Yeah.
He dies on live air from yelling for 45 straight minutes.
No.
He's the Tom Cruise of podcasting.
Well, I mean, that'd be an interesting reputation to gain.
It would be. It would. That man managed to break every bone in his body doing podcasts. We knew he was out of shape, but Jesus, how did he do that? Welcome to the episode of Cinema. This is 71st, if my math holds correctly.
That is correct. Your math does.
It's me, Cine, and of course, over there is the always vibrant, clean to shorn Douglas Davidson, sir.
I am. It feels great.
Now,
I needed a haircut so badly.
I've been meaning to ask you this. Is there any particular reason? Would you just wake up one day and just ripped all the hair off your face? Or what led to this? I mean, I know this is a audio podcast, yes. But my man was looking nice and baby faced over here. So I had questions and inquiries to make. Did you just say it's enough is enough?
I had said enough was enough a long time ago, but Crystal cuts my hair and she just hadn't had an opportunity to do that. And we capitalized on distracting the kids and she just, which was great. Oh yeah. So yeah, it was enough. Enough was most certainly enough. This is actually a little shorter than I normally get it cut, but I prefer short. I do not like long hair. My hair is thick, therefore it is hot, and I do not like to mess with it.
I think the 8th Mission Impossible movie will be titled Enough is Enough. And strangely, it will also match the audience's sentiments on this franchise. All right.
Mission Impossible, Enough is Enough Part 2. It is now officially possible.
The subtitle, really, how hard were these? We're here to talk about Netflix originals, but before we do that, today we're going to start this bad boy off as we pretty much always do with movies that we have seen since we last talked. I have 2 as far as I know and can think of. No, I have 3. But you start with yours. We usually start.
You want to start?
Yours.
Okay. I've got a couple. I'm going to be brief on all of them, specifically because at least one I've talked about before, and others want to save some surprises on. The one that I actually rewatched earlier today because it's getting an upcoming home release is Baby Assassins from Yugo Sakamoto. Wow, my mouth wasn't moving as fast as my brain. Anyway, I loved this movie when I saw it at Fantastic Fest last year. It is currently available for streaming on the service Hi-Ya, if you have access to that. Otherwise, Well Go USA is releasing a physical disc. The Blu-ray is lovely. Sadly, there are no bonus features, but this movie is awesome. I've talked about it before. Absolutely go check it out. Another film that I checked out recently as part of Fantasia International Film Fest this year is a movie called The Roundup starring Don Lee. That man is amazing. And so far, every movie I've seen him in, he has been just perfectly cast in each thing. The Roundup is a sequel to, I think, a 2017 movie called The Outlaws. The Outlaws is currently streaming on Tubi for free. That's how I checked it out in order to be ready for The Roundup. I recommend checking out The Outlaws before you see The Roundup, if only because there's some characters that are utilized, referenced, however, where the relationships will mean more, their inclusion will mean more. But I highly recommend The Roundup, however you get the chance to see it. It's already been in select US theaters as of May, but haven't heard anything about a VOD or home release just yet, but highly recommend checking that out when you get a chance.
Roundup, great weed killer, by the way.
What's that?
I said Roundup.
Roundup? No, this is The Roundup. Not Roundup.
Okay.
Yeah. Although I imagine Don Lee could destroy some weeds too. I
Yes,
mean,
that man's
seriously.
arms are huge.
Oh my God. There's a moment in the trailer, so this isn't really giving anything away, where he looks at someone and goes, "Who are you?" He goes, "I'm cheeky." He says, "Don't be cheeky," and slaps him so hard the man just gets knocked out.
That's
I
hilarious.
imagine like if he were to pat you on the cheek, you'd get bruised. That's
Don't be affectionate with me.
but the way that they with this character and the willingness that Don Lee has to utilize his physicality, his large form for comedy in a way that doesn't mock himself, but is like, yeah, I'm this big. It reminds me of the best parts of like Jack Slater and Cash from Tango and Cash. Like if you combined some of those elements, it would work really well. Also coming available on streaming soon that I screened at Fantasia International Film Festival is a movie called Glorious. It's directed by Rebecca McKendry. I forgot to give the director on the last one. I'll scoot back around to that in a minute. But with Glorious, it's basically a two-hander between the dude from True Blood, Ryan Quanten, and J.K. Simmons, who you never see.
A little double Dutch oven going on here. Okay.
That's an interesting way to phrase it, given the context of the movie. So it's about a guy having a shitty day who goes to use a bathroom stall at a rest stop and ends up talking to a mysterious voice on the other side that says, I need your help to save the universe, and it's going to require a very special sacrifice at my glory hole.
All right, then.
Coming to Shudder, August 18th. I fucking loved this movie. I've got a full spoiler-free review up on Elements of Madness. I loved it for how dark it was. I loved it for how, in a way, thoughtful it is and entirely unexpected. It's very Lovecraftian, so expect it to be fucked up. Speaking of fucked up, did you like One Cut of the Dead?
Well, you know I did.
Shinichiro Ueda has a new film. It's called Popron. I also screened this at Fantasia. It has been released elsewhere. I do not know about a US release, but the basic premise is that a guy wakes up, his penis is flown off, and he's got 6 days to reattach it.
I don't think I can make it 6 minutes.
No. They cover how it all works, how you're okay. There's some really amusing body comedy here. There's an interesting body horror element that I don't think they use well enough. And while it is thoughtful and interesting as a concept, it doesn't land as well as you'd expect because too many things are rushed. But if you liked that style, now One Cut of the Dead wasn't Ueda's property. He didn't write and direct that. He was adapting it. This is his. But it is interesting, it is silly and awkward. And if you liked One Cut, I would say it's worth checking out. And then because I forgot to mention the director of the Roundup is Lee Sang-young, who, if I remember correctly, did do, no, at least according to IMDb, did not do The Outlaws. Okay. But it does look like there will be an Outlaws 3, and I'm ready. I'm fucking ready. So those are the 4 movies that I've seen recently that I wanted to mention. There is a 5th, but I'm waiting for you before we get to it.
Oh man, we might actually come in at the 45 to 60 minute mark.
We can do it. I believe in us.
We can do it. I got some movies to talk about, man. I saw The Forgiven. It was playing at Telluride. And then now
Tribeca, I know it's screened.
Wrong T Film Festival.
It's all right.
John Michael McDonough was the writer and the director. It's based on a book called The Forgiven. Ray Fiennes, Jessica Chastain, Dr. Holmes, Matt Smith, Caleb Landry Jones in there as well. It's always weird seeing his creepy redhead ass and stuff. And as well as Christopher Abbott, who's slowly making a case for the good newcomer onto the scene, at least for me, man. It's about a couple who are attending a party in Morocco. Yeah, Morocco, out in a remote part of Morocco. Ray Fiennes, Jessica Chastain, marriage crumbling. He's a little bit into the booze, and along the way there, along the path out in the dark, he hits and runs over a young Moroccan kid. And everything from there on is the fallout and the consequences of his actions. And this is a journey to self-discovery, I guess is the best way of putting it. Ray Fiennes is the central main character, kind of a dick starting off in this movie, and it becomes something of a, it's one of those changed man type stories by the end of it. That part of the movie is excellent. I think Ray Fiennes does a great job. He does a great job selling the not giving a fuck about these people, and he does a great job of selling the wavering, and then he does a great job of selling like an actual real remorse that he has for what he's done. That whole thing is good. And you know, the parents of this young kid come to Matt Smith's estate and they're like, hey, you're going to help us bury our son. So he's removed from all of his peoples and his friends on like a 2-day trip through the desert to get back to their hometown and all that. So he doesn't get to interact with any of the other people that he might know. He's by himself. He's a fish out of water. The second half, the B plot, is the shit part. What Jessica Chastain is up to while everyone else is partying. And it's just all filler, all shallow. They attempt to have some kind of US's standing in the world discussions that falls very hollow and very one pass over the notes there on that part of the script. All that absolute garbage. And I think that's what lands the film right in the middle for me, because it's the greatness of what Ray Fiennes is doing there with his journey of discovery out in the desert versus just the schlock you got to get through whenever they cut back. Now, I will say the editing is on point. They don't linger too long on plot A or plot B for too long, but you know, it's kind of Chastain being lured in by these society types and how she kind of interacts with some of them that just holds no weight, doesn't really progress the story in any real way. It feels like they just wanted a pretty face for this role just to fill a seat. That's kind of what that whole B plot is there. But I would suggest checking it out on VOD.
Are you a fan of this director's previous work? I kept meaning to look it up, and I was sort of right and sort of wrong. I couldn't remember if he was related to Martin McDonagh, which he is. He's the brother who did Calvary, The Guard, and a few others. I have heard of Calvary. I tried watching The Guard, and it was a weird situation and never got to watch it.
I've seen The Guard. I thought that was pretty dope. I have not seen War on Everyone, but someone told me that they really enjoyed it. Someone who has tastes similar to mine. I just never got around to checking it out. But yeah, I did see The Guard, and I did enjoy. I think that was like Rhodey. I think it's Rhodey and Brendan Gleeson.
Yes, The Guard.
Yes, Don Cheadle. Yeah,
Don Cheadle.
Brendan. Oh, I didn't.
Sorry, I wasn't sure where you were going with that.
Yeah. It's a movie. It might be worth checking out. Might be worth going back to. No big rush, but it's one of those. If you got time, which you never do, there you go. So yeah. The Forgiven. A lot of ups, a lot of downs. Take it or leave it on that one. Of course, I saw Nope, the latest from the Big Peel joint. Absolutely stellar. Makes me wish we would have pushed back our top 5 episode until after this came out, because it is definitely right up there somewhere in like the number 2 or number 3 range for me right now, flirting at number 1.
Well, you know, you insisted about when we do the episode.
Hey man, halfway through the year,
scheduled it
halfway through the year. It makes sense, but still, you know, Peele and Kaluuya, I'm trying to think of like a great actor director pairing to compare them to. I couldn't come up with anything.
Scorsese and De Niro.
Yeah, I feel like that's an unfair comparison. Even though
comparison Peele made.
It is, but we know Scorsese and De Niro have decades together. Well, this is still a little bit kind of fresh. So even though I think I did a Scorsese De Niro comparison in my review, but yeah, it's I think it's going to go that route eventually. At least if that's my hope. I hope they make many more movies down the road together, because just like Jay Muse is made for Kevin Smith's dialogue, just like Samuel L. Jackson is made for Tarantino dialogue, I feel like Daniel Kaluuya is made very well for Jordan Peele dialogue. Even in a movie like Nope, where he has almost nothing to say. This is a character who moves and speaks with purpose. He doesn't trim fat. He doesn't waste a word. He is all presence in this movie.
I mean, Widows proved he doesn't need to say much to make an impression.
There you go. Very good point. Very good
I
point.
never. It was shortly after the gym scene, the first time I tried to watch Widows, where we had to stop it. But I never forgot. Never. He makes such a strong impression with just his physicality and intensity.
And that's the first time I've ever seen him play a role kind of like that. And I'm like, oh, he has this switch as well. I think it might have been around the Widow's time where I was like, well, it was just a matter of time before he gets his Oscar. And he now has one. Good for him. And completely
one of the leads. One of the leads of Judas and the Black Messiah.
The second build lead in that movie. And then completely 180 from that is Keke Palmer's just absolute manic performance, especially in the beginning where she just comes in like a nuclear bomb and it's just a mile a minute, talk, all charm, all charisma, all jokes, just a bright, shining presence. And I think their balance is what makes the film work as well as it does. Of course, Peele's direction is absolutely stellar all throughout it as well. As with Get Out, not so much with Us, I don't think. A lot of heavy symbolism in there as well. Stephen Yeun, not there for a whole lot of time, but pretty good with the amount of time that he has. My biggest issue is with the what it is that they're all out there after. Once we see what that is, I thought that was very poorly presented, almost cheap looking to the point where I'm like, is this intentional that it's so fucking cheap looking? The design on what it is, I was just like, it's not good to me. Almost enough to take me out of the movie. Like I was like, what's he thinking on this? But outside of that, man, just the story itself is yet another home run out of the park. I'm placing it in between Get Out and Us, closer to the Get Out scale than the Us scale. Great movie, and I suggest that for everyone who is a fan of that horror-ish with a little bit of mind bender in there, but also with that Peele humor as well to break that tension. He knows when to break the tension, and he also knows when to fake us out with tension, which is something you don't really quite see too much in horror joints. And I was like, that cheeky bastard. It's a cheeky bastard right there. Good movie. That Nope. Right. And lastly, and to roll right into our topic, I saw The Gray Man, man. It's fun nonsense. I loved it. I loved every bit of it, man. I've seen a lot of our peers trashing it online for just being, mindless brain food. And I think it's some of the most entertaining mindless brain food.
Yes.
I love a movie where it looks like people are having fun while making the movie. It's part of the reason I've gone at length why I love Free Fire so much, because everyone looks like they're having a fun time doing that movie. It looks the same way, especially Chris Evans, just leaning into the villainous of it all. He's allowed to just cut loose. Ryan Gosling's got a lot of winking and grinning at the camera as well. It's just Ana de Armas, just do more action, please. She just needs to be our new action person.
She didn't do as much as I would have liked, particularly in the big conflict at the end. It could have been anybody because of the way that it's staged and the way that it's executed. So the fact that it is or isn't Ana de Armas doing it kind of bothered me a little bit. I quite enjoyed this movie as well. Forgive the interruption. Continue, and then I will offer my thoughts.
Yeah, it's a fun movie, man. Spy type people doing spy type shit. We got the MacGuffin. We got to do the MacGuffin. I've got to stop the guy from doing the MacGuffin. The end. It's a very simple formula, and the Russos play with it and have fun with it. A lot of great set pieces as far as action wise. And like I said, everyone's having a blast. I had a blast. There's some great dialogue all throughout there. That's twice now we've been cheated with Ana de Armas action scenes between this and No Time to Die. No Time to Die was just like,
yeah, no, but that was perfectly done. Like, she is just so fucking happy to be there. Literally, the character is so happy to be there, and then just decimates everybody.
And I was like, no, it wasn't enough. Bring her back.
Well, she's getting a ballerina spinoff, right, in the John Wick universe.
I did not know this.
Yeah.
Give me more action from Ana de Armas.
Let me see. They've already done the director. Let me double check because I did not have this prepared.
Friend of the show, Joel Winstead, was certain for the longest that Bullet Train was part of the John Wick universe. I had to gently let him down that it is not.
It is not.
I also wish Atomic Blonde was part of that universe.
Yeah, but they'd never interact. I'd be fine with it as something that would overlap. Like she might have some engagement with the High Table or some bullshit. But yeah, unfortunately, as great as those characters are, the timeline doesn't work out.
Yeah, one's Cold War era and the other is more modern day era. So unless you make Charlize Theron Helen Mirren nowadays, then it doesn't quite work.
I mean, you know, Helen Mirren's just showing up in everybody's franchises and having a good time. I mean, that Fury of the Gods trailer, I was like, I see you guys with Shazam's. Are you familiar with the Fast and the Furious movies? Yeah, I think she is.
Yeah.
She's been in a few of them.
She's been in a couple of them. Yeah.
But no.
What's your thoughts on Gray Man?
I enjoyed it as well. Yeah, I was let down by some of the action set pieces. The first one, it involves, for those of you that haven't seen it, it involves a one-on-one portion between Ryan Gosling and his target. But amid the spectacle of these fireworks going off, there's so much smoke you can't really see what's going on. And then later, there's a great fight sequence happening inside of a plane, except for the fact that for some reason they keep cutting to outside of the plane. Like, I don't give a fuck. If it's falling out of the sky, we've established it's doing that. Let it fucking fall. We don't need to know that it's falling. Deal with that and get him out. And then, of course, there was some weird shit with him falling out of the plane. But the fight scenes from there forward were great. I loved the sequence with Alfre Woodard. Very brief though it was. That was fantastic. The sequence that it led up to, he, you know, with the cops and everything else. Why can't somebody shoot this asshole? Like, just the cleverness in the staging.
Yeah, that business with the cops there might have been my favorite of the sequence there.
No, that's a phenomenal sequence. But one thing that I really liked about this is that it reminded me of the books for the Bourne Legacy, Bourne Identity series.
Ludlum, yeah.
It very much reminded me of that, where you've got smart people doing smart things, and therefore the impossible seems likely.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got Gosling, who he ends up in a trap door and figures his way out of that. And that sequence, getting out, was fantastic. It's staged well. You can follow what's happening for the most part. The fact that there is smoke in that sequence actually serves the purpose of people don't know where he is,
mm-hmm.
and therefore makes him more dangerous. I didn't like the staging of the chronology that were shown. I would have switched some of it around to help set the stakes a little bit better. But there's some good relationships in this movie. There's some cleverness in the way that things are executed. And I mean that literally, as well as a descriptor for the narrative. It's a fun movie. And I agree with you. People, they seem to be having a good time. And that to me made it worth it. Like, if my Thursday had gone differently, I was going to rewatch it.
I might do that tonight.
There you go. I probably will not, as it is over 2 hours, and the next 3 days are going to be super busy around the homestead. So no late nights for me. But no, I enjoyed The Gray Man. I would be interested in seeing a follow-up, particularly with the story that's going on in the film, in the sense that Jessica Henwick to me was totally wasted, and a follow-up would give her the opportunity to do something more. She is a solid martial artist who didn't get to throw a fucking punch.
Didn't do
nothing at all. And for the first time in my life, I've heard you and some of our colleagues make fun of people's, or point out, I shouldn't say make fun, point out bad costume design or makeup or whatever else. And I just kept looking at her and going, that is a horrible wig.
It was the whole conversation between me and Leslie while we were watching the movie. Like, that headpiece was terrible. I don't know what the thought process behind it. The last time I saw a headpiece that bad was the black dude in Don't Look Up.
See, you said that, and I actually had that specific example in my head because I didn't notice, maybe because I am not of the culture, as it were. So I wouldn't know good lighting versus bad lighting, hairstyle, bad hairstyle, whatever. For me, I'm just looking at Rob Morgan and going, I like how he's presenting the character. But with Jessa Henwick, seeing her in Matrix Resurrections going, that is well put together top to bottom. Here it just looked false.
Horrible.
Yeah. Man.
All right. Well, there you go. There you go. Great, man. It appears 2 thumbs up from the Sound Mountain on that bit of business there. I'm looking forward to hoping we get a little bit more out of that universe, man. Agreed. A lot of people calling it a waste of 200 million. Okay, whatever. I love it. It looked great, man. That your complaints about things being a bit obfuscated in that first fight scene, 100% valid. But man, there's some lovely use of color going on throughout there. Yeah.
No, the movie to me looks great, and there's some great moments in it. The drone use for me was a little ostentatious and unnecessary, but I think where I think where people make the comparison is that there are certainly some straight to direct to video or to VOD films that have, I would agree, have better constructed action sequences. I rewatched, as I said, Baby Assassins today. There's the fight sequence at the end of the movie is just chef's kiss in execution and in design. It is so great that it rivals anything in the Gray Man in terms of what you'll remember after you're done. And it certainly cost them less than 200 million.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's just the fact that like you spend all this money and you have these problems, whereas these other films that cost much less do more with less. And yeah, this is why in my review, I described it as the most unrestrained I've seen the Russos. And I like Cherry. I absolutely did like Cherry.
Boy.
In particular, I like the fact that with every different portion of Cherry's life, the cinematography and direction changed to reflect what was going on with the character. So it made sense to have these creative flourishes between each one. The Gray Man has flourishes that are unnecessary, like they don't serve any purpose other than to look cool. And while that can be fine when you're using a drone, in most cases, unless you're highlighting some movement that we need to keep up with, they're used for, establishing shots.
Mm-hmm.
But they weren't used for those purposes this time. And so for the most part, except for one, I can't come up with any reason why they were necessary. There was one at the end of the movie that actually gave momentum to stuff that was happening, and you're hearing things happen around you, perfectly used. The other drones, I was like, why, guys? Just because you can doesn't mean you have to.
Yeah, you know what? I think that was a lot of just because we can, we did.
We need to spend another 100 million. Drones. We're coming under budget. Drones. It's a choice.
It's a choice. All right, man. That brings us, that being in the newest Netflix original, reportedly their most expensive original. Ooh.
Which is weird.
Yeah.
Considering some of the other movies that they've made themselves or produced.
Yeah. We're here to talk about our 3 favorite Netflix originals. Doug, would you like to do your usual bit of nonsense over there?
Oh, I very, very much do. I have a whole lot of nonsense, and here's the reason why. Netflix, like other streaming services, new and as old or what have you as them, they release original films. And yet for some reason, maybe it's because Netflix doesn't do a great job of marketing their movies. Maybe it's because they release so much stuff. Last year's gimmick was a new movie a week, right? Mm-hmm. That they release so much stuff that Netflix movies are considered typically bad. Right. Netflix doesn't release good movies. To which I say movies like Beasts of No Nation, Roma, Io, Triple Frontier gets a lot of talk in the action area. Gerald's Game. The Babysitter is a fucking great comedic horror film. Let's see. I liked Mute. Say what you will about it.
Right. Mute was on my 100 sci-fi list, man.
Let's see. 6 Balloons. If you haven't seen that, it's Abby Jacobson and Dave Franco. Highly recommended. It's a drama. You want a comedy? Go watch Set It Up with Zoe Deutsch and what's his face from Top Gun Maverick?
Glenn Powell.
Glenn Powell. Absolutely. It's also got Lucy Liu and Taye Diggs. It's a fun fuck movie. The Trial of Chicago 7. His House, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. You've got The Night Comes for Us. Y'all, Kodachrome, Tick, Tick, Boom. there are plenty of movies I've written down that I haven't mentioned. What was it? Cop Story came out last year that was getting a lot of notoriety out of Mexico. They have brought over films from other countries and produced them to get them bigger reach. They have released originals like The Gray Man. They have done stuff like The Irishman and The Harder They Fall. So to say that Netflix never has released a good and or great movie, I call bullshit. And granted, it's all subjective. It is all subjective. But there have been some great movies released by Netflix. And the three I'm going to talk about today certainly fits that list.
I don't think I've ever heard anybody say that Netflix doesn't release good movies. I think the common complaint is they release good in a ton of schlock. Like I myself said last year that you get 52 Netflix movies, you're going to get 45 pieces of shit. You're gonna get like 4, that was pretty good, and then like 2, like, yo, this could be a serious contender in there. But you got to get through those 45 pieces of shit to find out. And of course, like every movie, you don't know until you hit play or the streets start talking. But yeah, I think it's generally acknowledged that they do occasionally blow and cock is right twice a day, or in Netflix's case. in Netflix's case, like once every 8:48 a.m. is when they're right.
Yeah, I think it's the fact that they release so much and the marketing isn't great on it, particularly once it releases, I think certainly does create the sense that I more often hear they've never released a good movie, to which I say, forgive me, again, subjective, but I will politely disagree with that all day long. If not just because there have been Oscar nominees and winners that have come out of this, that Netflix has been honored with. To say that they've released nothing good makes me think you fall underneath you watch the typical, I watch 5 to 8 movies a year, versus me, who is encroaching upon 200. And I certainly haven't watched any near as much films as some of my colleagues. So I would just say, maybe dig in a little bit more as time permits, because there are tons of great movies out there, and many from different countries.
Netflix has the ones you know about, and also there's a couple of, like you said, due to bad marketing, there's some hidden gems out there, man. You just gotta go do a little bit of digging. And yeah, that error is also on Netflix. You can't just put it on your front page and call that the marketing, man. You really got to make the push, but whatever. Hire us as your social media content, Netflix.
I'm just saying, like, I'll
somehow
admit,
there'll be a cinnamon show on Netflix the next week.
I would totally do it. I haven't had a chance to watch it yet, but Freaks, You're One of Us, I think is from Germany, whereas there's a Sonny Sono movie that, The Forest of Love, that is on there. And of course, by the way, I would be remiss not to mention the 40-year-old version. That is a great movie.
That was on my top 10 for the year that year. I love Rada Blank, and I loved the 40-year-old version. I love that movie. Yes, Rodimus Prime. All right, well, let's get into it, sir. Would you like to go first there?
I can. I'm going to be real quick with this one because I've talked about it endlessly since it released last year, according to my Letterboxd, and my Letterboxd is a liar because it says I've watched it 10 times. I guarantee you, because of my children, it has been more than that, and I don't care. The Mitchells versus the Machines, directed by Michael Rianda, is an amazing fucking movie. Now, of course, I know people that weren't impressed with it at all, and to them I say, I am sorry it did not connect with you the way that it connected with me, because I saw myself in it. I saw my children in it. I saw, not in the apocalypse version, but just the Mitchell family. And I quite literally turned into Rick Mitchell today at lunch when I looked at my son and went, hey, let's not watch a tablet today. Let's talk to each other before your grandfather gets here to come play. Let's put our tablet away and just do that. I literally said, this is my Rick Mitchell moment. And Connor knew exactly what I was talking about. But it's a sweet movie. It is a hilarious movie. The art direction is amazing. The score is amazing. I love everything about this movie, top to bottom. And since I've talked about it so much, go find one of the other episodes.
There you go. Go find one of the other episodes that I'm sure Douglas can lead you to.
I can.
My first one, man. Still got to eliminate one of these. I'm going for I can't not Charlie Kaufman, man. I'm thinking of ending things. I think that came was uh it's you really gotta it's what you get out of it, what you put into it is what you get out of it, I think. Um it's weird, it's mind bendy. I think it's still to this date the finest Jesse Buckley performance we've gotten, although men might supplant that. I need to go back and rewatch both of those movies.
You'll probably get your chance in a couple of months.
I'll get my chance in a couple of weeks, sir. That shit hits like August 9th.
Well, it's just if you didn't want if you waited, chances are A24 is going to put that shit up.
Oh, you mean on HBO Max?
Mm-hmm.
Oh no!
No, not HBO Max. I mean, like for like award season.
Oh, for award season, I need that Blu-ray now.
Yeah, they're not going to send one of those.
No. I think I'm ending things. It's my favorite. I've said before on this show. My favorite Jesse Plemons is quite sheepish. Jesse Plemons. That's why I loved him so much in Power of the Dog, and that's why I love him so much here. I think those roles, the very inward roles, he doesn't. From what I've seen too much, he doesn't get loud and boisterous. He's a mostly quiet, inverted character.
He just wants to know how Fritos gets to stay in business if they keep offering these kinds of deals.
And it's just the arrangement of the scenes, the purposefulness of trying to throw you off track, keep you off your guard, characters switching personalities in the middle of scenes, rehashing scenes from a different perspective. It's all in there. It's worth multiple watches to fully appreciate and theorize what is going on. I love and adore the hell out of this movie, man. And it's a movie with a double entendre, and I'm always a fan of those with titles.
It's one I still need to get to.
Oh man, you're killing me, Smalls.
I know.
Smalls.
I live to disappoint you.
Yes.
That is my purpose in life.
I see.
Just, leave you in a constant state of, man.
Douglas. My alarm clock goes off in the morning. I'm like, damn, Davidson again.
You're doing something to disappoint me.
Always doing something. Always scheming at night. Like you say, like, I'm going to bed now, and then you just hit that Elements of Madness sticker, and it's a button, and your whole wall turns around. So one of those intricate yarn displays of I know he likes this, so I can never watch that. What is your?
It's not on purpose. It's not on purpose.
I know. What is your second movie, sir?
My second movie is one that quite legitimately I think of often, and I think of fondly. I rewatched it recently as part of a Criterion home release, and I talked about it a little bit then. So again, I won't get too deep into it now. But Bong Joon-ho's Okja from 2017. It is a complex film that deals with a lot of different issues. It brings up ideas of consumption. It makes you, the script implies that it is talking about or tricks you, if you will, into getting the audience to think that it's about GMOs. It gets the audience to think that it's about eating a non-meat lifestyle, when in actuality, this film is just trying to get you to think about where the stuff you eat comes from. Our lead character, Misha, she doesn't stop eating meat just because she goes on this journey to try and save her super pig, Okja. She doesn't stop doing that. Instead, what we witness is a character who goes on this adventure. It's a young girl. She's given no romantic partner. She's given no assistance whatsoever. She is literally on her own on this cross-continent journey to try and save her pig. And she's got to figure out who to trust, who not to trust. And so the story is actually about the fact that different people are lying to you for their own gain. So you have to be able to sort through what is it that they want and everything else. There's the idea of language barriers. There's the idea that the capitalist will be the most likely to tell you the truth and be a person of honor rather than someone that is trying to sell you sunshine and rainbows. And that's an interesting idea, by and large. One of my favorite things, particularly in revisiting it, was the cinematography from Darius Panji. He did the cinematography for a few indie films: Seven, Uncut Gems, Panic Room, Funny Games, the remake. A few films you guys might have heard of: The Beach, Midnight in Paris. Mostly work nobody's ever heard of or celebrated in any way, shape, or form. But the way that when Misha is at home on her mountaintop area, things are still and there's a lot of long takes. But the moment that she goes running after the group of people that have stolen Oksha, or technically taken back Oksha, it's not stolen, immediately the cinematography shifts to invoke that movement and that intensity. And so there's so much thoughtfulness in terms of the direction, the cinematography, the performances, the narrative, that it is hard not to think of this not only as probably my favorite Bong Joon-ho film, but also one of the best Netflix films.
There you go. There you go. Boom. I did not pick it up on the Criterion during this sale, unfortunately.
It's all right. It's all right.
Was planning on it for this past paycheck, and that rascally Edwin Arnaud is like, the Wu-Tang Clan is coming through town next month. So I have to protect my neck, Doug. I have to protect my neck.
No. And that's rule number one. Always protect the neck. But I got you covered. Criterion was so very kind and sent me a review copy, but I wanted that sucker on 4K. And so I went and bought the 4K edition that also includes the Blu-ray. So I got you covered.
Oh, did you pick it up during the sale?
Yes, yeah. Of course it did. Of course it did. Because
good man.
I'm hard pressed to spend $50 on I spent $50 on my Beastmaster 4K.
What? Get out of here.
The Beastmaster.
Understandable, man. I've heard Beastmaster, that's pretty fucking dope. Right on, man. Right on. I understand, man. Those Criterion joints are not cheap on the wallet. My number two, speaking of them Criterion joints, man, it is The Irishman.
No.
Thank you very much for that Criterion, by the way. It's The Irishman, man. It's The Irishman. Netflix says, Scorsese, do your thing, and somehow we'll let old ass Robert De Niro play like 4 different time periods. Audiences won't think it's weird at all. We did. I love this movie, man. I've said it before. I will say it again. I will go to my grave saying it. It is the Avengers for mob movies. That's what The Irishman is. It is a packed cast list.
Joe Pesci out of retirement.
Joe Pesci, he had to ask him like 20 times to do the role before he came out of retirement and took it. Finally, we get Pacino working with Scorsese. That's been the missing piece of the crime puzzle for decades. You had De Niro, you had Pesci, and they just always, from what I hear, they just kept hit and miss at each other, never could quite connect, and they finally did with this movie. Also, of course, Ray Romano in there, a whole bunch of who's. It is to me the spiritual successor to Goodfellas. If Goodfellas is everything in its prime, the rags to riches blaring in the background, the tracking shot to the Copacabana, which is all lively and full of vim and vigor. The opening tracking shot of The Irishman is in a nursing home. So I feel like it's mobs in their youth, in their prime, and then mobs at their twilight. And I think you could do a very great 45-hour double feature of those two movies. It's Scorsese at the top of his game. That old man still has mastered his craft. I thought Al Pacino gave one of the best performances he's given in years, maybe since Heat. That De Niro is just always doing De Niro. Pesci came back like he hadn't missed a step. I actually thought Ray Romano was tolerable. I'm not a big fan of that dude. Not a whole lot of screen time, but when he pops up, I'm like, he's doing a good job. This criminal that Keitel only has like 2 scenes, but it's just, if you are a fan of that subgenre, this is a movie that was made for you to live in this world of these old dudes still trying to hustle and scrap and be about that hard scrabble life. And all of the broken crockery that they've laid along the way with their past relationships and all that kind of good shit, man. Failed relationships with family, with spouses, all that kind of good stuff, man. I love everything about The Irishman.
It always bothered the shit out of me when people complained that Anna Paquin's character didn't speak or had one line of dialogue.
One line,
yeah. Forgive me, but that implies to me that you weren't paying attention, because that was part of the point. He is so disconnected from his family. He has no relationship with them.
Right. Exactly. And I think people were... Never mind. Yes, I agree.
Expectations are a killer. Expectations are a killer.
I don't even think it was expectations, but yeah, I think people were just quick to hop down and try to champion her for some reason. I'm pretty sure she read the script, or at least was. I mean, we're talking about Scorsese here, so I'm pretty sure he gave her a heads up of what this case was before she decided to accept it. So yeah, there's that. Now, Irishman, man, love that jump. What's your number 2, sir? Number 3.
Real quick before getting into that one, I want to revisit The Irishman. I'm not and I don't mean this as a sacrilegious thing. I'm not a big Scorsese fan. I know, but I've never been one. It's weird. I've never been one to like follow a director and be like, I champion them. There are directors where I've gone, their work has influenced me, but Scorsese wasn't one of those. Richard Donner, his style, his humor, Mel Brooks, excuse me, influenced me in a way, but I didn't grow up with Scorsese. So I don't have that strength of conviction or what have you. So The Irishman was a big surprise for me with how strongly I felt the film, its ideas and its performances. Are you okay?
I'm just like listening, just listening to all this.
Well, I mean,
I'm processing.
Like, I hear people talk all this much about how Spielberg, for example, is just so wonderful as a director. And all I think is, and because of where I came in and where I became aware of Spielberg as a director, I'm like, he is a very good director, but I don't hold some of the movies that he has in as high esteem for no other reason than they just didn't connect with me. And so I think because of that, I can look at a body of work and go, academically, I see why people love this person's work, even if it didn't resonate with me that way. I love what Martin Scorsese does in the sense of academics, the different movies that he's made, the way that he's championed international cinema, the way that he has used his success to bring up other people, artists, writers, directors, what have you. So people that shit on Martin Scorsese, I really don't understand. The man probably knows more about cinema than really anyone alive. He's so fucking smart. But just as a director, he's not one that he's not a name that I hear and immediately go, I need to go see the movie. And it's not for any other thing than the movies that I've seen I liked but have never loved. And I didn't come up with those. It's more like, I think also a long time ago, I realized that the more that I lift up an individual, the more my heart breaks when they aren't what I've held them up to be. Like, I can't, Mel Gibson is a anti-Semitic, racist asshole. I can't watch the Lethal Weapon movies anymore, and it makes me so fucking sad.
Watched it today.
What's that? Yes, you did.
Watched it today, yeah.
I was doing my review of the Roundup, which hopefully will come out in the next couple of days, and I was referencing what the Roundup reminded me of. The movie takes place in 2008. The Outlaws took place in 2004, but there's a vibe, as I mentioned, to the Roundup that feels like 80s and 90s action movies from America in certain elements and approaches, that I went and pulled up a scene from Lethal Weapon 2 that always made me laugh. When Riggs and Murtaugh go to talk to Richard Donner, who's playing the captain, and Riggs is smoking a cigarette, and the captain throws him a thing and says, what does this say? He goes, Captain. It's like, right. So, I don't give a fuck, put out your cigarette. And they go through this whole thing. And no. They're getting the assignment to take care of Joe Pesci's character that they haven't met yet. And they go through this thing, and you see that, yes, this captain, yeah, I don't give a fuck, go do the thing. And then as he's leaving, he goes, hey, Briggs, see the sign on the door? He goes, yeah, no smoking, but I don't give a fuck. And he walks out. Like, I loved that relationship, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I love the style of writing and the delivery and the banter and the way that Donner captured these characters. And I can't watch any of them because Mel Gibson is a fucking racist asshole. So
there you go.
And it disappoints me because those movies were significant to my upbringing. And this is a long tangent to try and help get me out of this hole that apparently I've dug for myself.
No, there's no getting out of this hole, sir.
Yeah, no, there's a little getting out of this hole. It's just we all come to artists differently. And where some people immediately go, these are the golden cows. I learned a long time ago not to have one. It didn't work out well for the Israelites trying to get out of Egypt to have a golden cow. I will not have one.
Well, there you go. Chris Nolan, you are my golden cow.
Raw. You don't hear that? He's trying to
people
speak
and
to
Hans. While we were waiting for our Nope screening started late due to some technical issues, as I'm pretty sure you saw online, and that
from a couple of places. It wasn't just you. There was a
weird.
couple of places had a problem that night.
Somehow that between me, Fraser, and O'Connell, that turned into us making fun of Christopher Nolan's sound mix. Don't know how we got on that tangent. But me and O'Connell were laughing. They're like, hold on, say, no, we love Nolan. We can't be laughing at this. No. Five, I said.
No, you can. You need to be able to point out the things that are just like, why?
Yeah.
Why? You need to. It's okay to look at things. Any of the movies I've mentioned, the one I'm about to talk about in a minute, have their faults. You can talk about them. The movies you love. They may not always be perfect, even if they're perfect to you.
So 10 it is. What is your third?
Frontwards or backwards? Tenet is perfect. Is that what you're saying? Frontwards or backwards?
Yep, it confuses you into being perfect.
Nah,
what is your last movie here, sir?
My last movie is a movie that to this day, and it hasn't been that long, frustrates the shit out of me about how too many critical organizations leading all the way up to the Oscars ignored it. And it shouldn't have been. It's a phenomenal piece of work. It has a lot to say. It sometimes says it a little too aggressively, but I would expect nothing less from director Spike Lee and his movie To Five Bloods.
Oh, thank God. I don't have to talk about it now. Woo, I can switch mine to something else.
Woo! Here to help. I have not seen all of Lee's work, but I am a fan. I love what he did with Chirac. Then again, I loved Lysistrata and almost did a senior project in high school on Lysistrata, as well as another anti-war play that at the moment I can't remember. But I love that. Inside Man is one of the most perfect films I've ever seen. Like, I fucking love that movie top to bottom. There are a number of his films that I have enjoyed. The Five Bloods is one that is powerful and poignant, not just in the narrative, but also in the performances. It's the movie that put Jonathan Majors on my radar. I know he had done
Last Black Man in San Francisco,
but I had yet to check that out by that point. But you've got Delroy Lindo, who I've seen in big budget films and lower budget films of all genres, and he's still always one of the best things in it. You know, Isaiah Whitlock Jr. is fantastic. Just the whole group. I was less familiar with Clark Peters and Norm Lewis, but each of them give a wonderful performance here. And the fact that anyone can say, even when you've got The Irishman that did get a lot of critical attention, even when you've got Oksha that was directed by Bong Joon-ho and given a Criterion, when you've got all these other films that people will talk about and remember, for some reason, To Five Bloods always feels like it gets forgotten, and that annoys the shit out of me. Because in any discussion, I feel like if you say Netflix doesn't release any good films, there should be a caveat that includes, except for To Five Bloods. Like, and again, it's subjective. Maybe you watched it and you hated it. It is a phenomenal piece of art, beginning to end.
Yep. I said it. Sorry to interrupt you.
No. Go ahead.
It is the modern day version of The Treasure of Sierra Madre to me. But better. Please continue.
No. Yeah, since it's not on yours anymore, if you want to say anything, I think I've said all I need to say with that one.
I think you covered pretty much the basis of it. It is, I think, what could have been, and at the very least, an Oscar-nominated role for Delroy Lindo. I think Spike still at the top of his game because he did what, Black Klansman in this back-to-back, so that man's still got a lot of juice in the tank. It's emotion, cinematography to me is excellent. That is also what put Jonathan Majors on the map for me. And of course, it verifies or validates my don't trust Jean Reno in a movie theory.
Since Mission Impossible.
Ever since Mission Impossible, since '96, I've not trusted that man. It could be a family rom-com, and I don't trust his ass. Him and Marion Cotillard, those are the two I don't trust when I see him in movies. Thanks, Nolan.
Well, that's because Nolan, subtle guy that he is, names her Mal. Really?
He's like, they're never gonna know Spanish. Yeah.
I know, I'll name the character Darth Vader. They'll never know he's the father.
It is such an emotional journey, man. A wild father-son bonding story. People reliving and researching the glory days old past. So much to love in that movie. It was somewhere in my top 10 for that year. I love everything about the Five Bloods, man. Shit is dope.
Yep. And what is your last one?
Now that you got that out the board, whew, all the pressure's off of me. Thank you.
You're welcome.
That one. I'm going with Dolomite Is My Name.
You know, I was wondering if it was going to make your list. I really was.
It was between the Five Bloods and Dolomite. The finest Eddie Murphy performance I think I have ever seen.
Have you seen The Distinguished Gentleman?
No.
Oh, okay. I'm hoping Paramount releases it. Anyway, please continue. And that was a joke, by the way. The Distinguished Gentleman is a good movie, but it's no Dolomite Is My Name.
The story, if you don't know about Rudy Ray Moore's making of Dolomite, which I think I can go ahead and say now will not be making the 100 action movies list. Very low budget. It's just the story of a man with a dream. I think at its basis, that's why I like it so much. It's a story of a man with a dream and with heart and with some of the means to get that dream made. And what he doesn't have, he has the charm to get those people to see his vision. And you're rooting for him from the moment you know what's going down. You're rooting for him, and you know, is the product he makes like the greatest thing to film? No, but you can tell that there's heart in there.
Yeah,
and that he just wanted to do the best he could with the resources that he has. And how Eddie portrays Rudy Ray Moore, as we know him, as this over-the-top comedian with all these classic setup punchline style deliveries in the clubs, and seeing him not in that element as a character with insecurities and all that kind of stuff. Like before they filmed the big sex scene, you know, he was like, I know I'm not the typical lead man. That's my favorite scene in the movie, where he just outright confesses, like, I'm not what's hot in the streets right now, and I know that, and I'm worried about how people will perceive me. Like that's the great character development. I love that in this movie, man. And it's still got humor. It's still Eddie Murphy. It's still funny as all get out, man. And I loved everything about Dolomite Is My Name.
I think because of you, that's why I watched it. I think, I forget if it was a challenge, because I hadn't watched it by the time that you did. Mm-hmm. That's why I checked it out. But I remember watching it because you had talked it up so much, and it totally lived up to everything that you said about it prior to my watching it. And amusingly, I was watching The Lost City recently for the home release that's coming up, and it occurred to me, I'd already watched it. We signed up for the trial of Paramount Plus, and Lost City was on it. So Crystal and I watched it. But it was with the home release that I was like, wait, Divine Joy Randolph, who's in The Lost City, I was like, wait a minute, she plays Lady Reed, who does that scene with him. And I agree with you that the moment before and then the actual shooting of the sex scene, the way that they make it so
Beds
like,
rocking
yes,
and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, we're going to make it wild and crazy. You look like a regular dude, but how can we make this cinematic so that it seems like?
Yeah.
And everybody just sort of goes for it. And they, at least as far as the movie's concerned, they trusted Rudy. and therefore were able to make Rudy look like this stud, which they all knew was just sort of feeding into it. But it was just so wonderful and supportive. I was literally thinking about that recently upon connecting the dots that she played Lady Reed.
Yeah, man. Dope movie. That Dolomite is my name. And that's it, man. That's our lists. We got some challenges too, man.
We do some long gestating challenges.
Some long gestating challenges.
Well, we weren't sure how things were going to go with some previous episodes. We didn't know if we'd have time or not. But I'm actually really glad with the timing of this. You challenged me to watch Heat, Michael Mann's Heat, 1995. And I bought
crime drama of all time.
It's great that I had watched this before watching The Gray Man, because a lot of people were talking about it. And also the Russos, in a list of films that they put out as, here's the films that influenced, inspired this. I think Bullet was on that list. You watched Bullet recently?
I watched it today.
Recently. I couldn't remember when. But Heat was on that list. So I was really glad to have watched that prior to. I've now seen 3 Michael Mann movies, to my knowledge. 3 or 4?
Heat, and what else?
Heat, Miami Vice, Collateral.
Oh, you haven't seen Thief?
And Thief. No, you challenged me to Thief.
Okay, yeah.
So Heat, Thief, Collateral Damage, Miami Vice. And I own 3 out of the 4. And with the recent passing of James Caan, may he rest in peace, I'm thinking about picking up Thief just so I have each movie that I've seen. But I had purchased Heat well before the pandemic, and it only took me until you challenging me to finally watch it. I understand why people talk about it with such reverence. It is a lengthy film, but it utilizes every moment well. The dual stories of the cop who is a cop before he's anything else, similar to the criminal who is a criminal before anything else, but how the attachments that they form impact their work. And then leading up to an ending that, I shit you not, I was watching it while Preston was asleep. He woke up when I had like 5 minutes left in the movie. So when I went to go restart it later, there was actually only 30 seconds left of movie before credits. So it took the wind out of the sails. I actually rounded back to just try and recapture everything. But
I understand your frustration. I had about 5 minutes left before recording this podcast.
Yeah, but you know how it ends.
I was like, I gotta sneak in Heat before that almost so close.
But it really is a wonderful movie held up by an ensemble cast that normally a cast of that size, you would expect something different to happen with them, to be either used differently or whatever else. But everybody is there with a specific purpose, with a specific job. This is an ensemble film, period. Mm-hmm. Yes, there are leads. De Niro and Pacino are fantastic as each other, but this is an ensemble picture that would feel very differently with any one of them used any more or less or cast differently. I am sorry it took me so long to see, but in the words of Al Pacino, what a picture.
Words of Al Pacino. Give me all you got.
Hooah!
Hooah!
I used to know his speech from Son of a Woman.
Yeah,
I had it memorized for a class in undergrad.
Oh, very nice. Yeah. Very nice. Yeah, I love the fuck out of that movie, man. I think The Godfather is the greatest crime movie ever made, and I think Heat is right below that at number 2. Obviously, inspired the tone of The Dark Knight and all sorts of other good shit on there, man. Love it. The conversation between Pacino and De Niro at the diner just coming about just due to the fact that they realized they're not in scenes together, so they just made it up there on the spot.
Oh, really?
Lovely. Yeah. They're like, we got to give Michael Corleone and the young father of Michael Corleone something to do, and it's a wonderful scene.
The one thing that I'm glad didn't happen, and I kept
glad Marlon Brando didn't show up.
Oh no!
Oh, okay.
No, the whole time with Al Pacino's character, he keeps talking to Natalie Portman about, have you seen your father? Have you communicated with your father? Da 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 da. and then it will cut over to De Niro, who is too busy for fuck all, right? I kept expecting De Niro to be the dad.
I do
So
believe
the
that's an
fact,
intentional misdirect.
yeah, and it's so perfect because I kept expecting when Pacino sees De Niro's face up on when they're doing a stakeout, I kept expecting him to be like, that's the reason why he wants to do a sit down with them is I'm coming after your ass. You're going to make me do this. I love your daughter. You can't be doing this, but it never comes up. It never becomes a thing. And instead it's just, there's a whole bunch of other assholes. Pacino is great at being a cop and kind of shitty at being a husband, he is on it as a stepfather.
A great stepdad, and I love the relationship between Natalie
Yeah.
Portman and Al Pacino in this
Yeah.
movie. Enough that she trusted him after attempting suicide to end up in his bathtub there at the hotel, which we have no idea how she got into the hotel room. But anyways, you gave me a 24 joint, man. Good time. The Art Patch joint, directed by the Softies. Boy, did I wish I remembered more of this movie. It was so long ago. I remember loving the fuck out of this movie. I love movies about people who nonstop hustle. It's why I love Uncut Gems so much. It's kind of why I love Good Time. Like, he had clear goals and objectives, and he was doing, at first it was the bank robbery. And then after the bank robbery goes south, he's trying to get his brother out of the hospital. He's doing everything he can. And it's just obstacle, improvise away at an obstacle, another obstacle, improvise away at it. He's just always thinking, always on the move. I loved Robert Pattinson in this movie. It gives you early Uncut Gem vibes because it is a little bit stressful and how we just always go, 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 go. It feels like this was like the tryout for what Uncut Gems would be. Like if they finally mastered their form, this was like their junior form here in Good Time. And if you're unfamiliar with what the movie's about, man, it's about a dude and his mentally challenged shitty dude and his mentally challenged brother. He's bringing him along to rob a bank, and that bank robbery goes a little bit south. The police catch up with the brother. Brother gets injured, and he's doing his best to break him out of the hospital. Things ensue from there, man, and don't
you hate it when things ensue?
I love when things ensue, especially things that don't go the main character's way ensue. Even better, and that's what we have in this movie. It comes across all sorts of weird criminals and denizens and innocent bystanders and all this, and just uses and manipulates the fuck out of everyone until they tighten the noose, and eventually, man, you gotta get guys. I love this movie,
man. I did not. And that's actually what I was doing. I was trying to find it. I reviewed this in August of 2017 for Culture. I did not review it. I did not like the movie, and I gave it a low star rating. Oh, no. But it is one where I've thought about revisiting it because there were elements of the story that worked. I thought the direction and the cinematography, the intensity, the stress level absolutely worked, but there were other elements that just didn't work for me. But in light of Uncut Gems, which is the kind of horrible ass movie I never want to watch again, simply because, and I call it horrible because it made me so it's an anxiety attack.
Yeah, it is. That's why I love it.
So it's incredibly well. Uncut Gems is incredibly well done. Sandler, one of his best performances, and this is coming from someone who loves Punch Drunk Love.
But everybody brings up Punch Drunk Love, but for me, it's Spanglish.
Spanglish is also a wonderful movie.
Yeah.
I just feel like where Spanglish is Sandler is sort of an everyman. Punch Drunk Love, he's doing some character work, which isn't to denigrate Spanglish. Again, it's a really good movie. Or at least it's a movie I enjoy. I own it. But Uncut Gems I would never buy because there's not a part of me that would want to revisit that experience. That is a film where I can go, this is great. I would vote for this in awards, but as soon as I was done, it was like, fucking break that disc. I want nothing to do with it. And before anybody thinks I'm being overly dramatic, during award season, when we get screeners, we're supposed to destroy them when we're done. It's a security thing. So for me, it was like coming out of my DVD player and breaking it in the get this away from me. Which is weird because I found
like Requiem of a Dream.
What was that?
A one and done like Requiem of a Dream.
Oh yeah. Whereas I saw Shiva Baby and immediately was like, this is as uncomfortable as Uncut Gems, but I love it so much and I want to revisit it, which is why I get why people bought Uncut Gems and I bought Shiva Baby, but I never want to see Uncut Gems again. But in giving you the challenge of Good Time and thinking about how people love Uncut Gems, I've thought about going back to Good Time to see if I need to revise my opinion on it. But we'll see. I don't know if I need that stress.
Yeah, sure you do. You absolutely need that stress. I encourage that stress. Put that stress upon yourself and your body, sir. I loved it, man. I gave it 4 out of good old 5 stars there.
Right on.
Yeah.
But this is the important thing, and this is not just for me, but for everybody. It's always okay to reevaluate how you feel about something. In 10 years, I might come back to Da 5 Bloods and have a different opinion on it. I don't suspect I will on that. I certainly don't expect I will on Mitchell's versus the Machines, but it's always possible. It is okay to go and revisit things that you love and go, okay, maybe I don't love it as much, or revisit things that you don't like and find that you do. Age, perspective, knowledge, all these things can change the experience. So maybe I'll check out Good Time when I feel like having an anxiety attack.
There you go. And I encourage it, like I said. If I recall correctly, your last 2 recommendations have both been A24 movies, and they are currently sitting at numbers 9 and 10 on my list.
Let's see, what was the last one?
Before that, I think it was Swiss Army Man.
Oh, right on.
Yeah, I have Good Time at 9, Swiss Army Man at 10, man. I both were ranked higher than I thought they would be when I pressed play on them. On the movies there.
And isn't that a nice surprise? Same thing happened with the other Robert Pattinson, may have also been A24. The Rover. Yeah, you introduced me to that one and I wasn't too big on it, but
it's sitting at 23 on my list.
Yeah, but out of how many?
28.
28. And is it a low score or a high score?
What did I give it? I gave it an just solid straight 3. Yep, 3 of 5.
3. Oh, okay.
So right in the middle.
I forget what I thought of the movie, but I just remember being really impressed by Pattinson. And I didn't know him from much at the time. He is a solid performer that can do characters really well, but also be a leading man. He is that rare performer that can be a mainstream hit, but also be weird as fuck if he wants to be. Like, yeah. It's great.
It's great. You don't get too many of those, but he is currently all up in those spaces. And I think that's it for episode 71 of the Cinnamon.
And you know what? I blame you that we went long this time because you were like, we'll end early. This will be so quick. Fuck you. Yeah, I was prepared and ready to be on time.
I'll take the heat for that. That's on me. All right, good. Well, we will be back hopefully in the next couple of weeks with some more tasty cinnamon content for you. Until
will be tasty. The challenge, the topic that you've given us, that you've come up with, is Chef's Kiss, and I hate it because the problem that you ran into before, I've already started my notes list on my iPhone, and I'm like, oh, these movies. Oh yeah, and this movie. Oh, and this. Fuck you, Daryl. Great topic. I hope you all enjoy it when we talk about it.
That's what I'm here for, man. And that is it, man. We'll be back a couple of weeks, man. More cinnamon. Until then, you all take it easy and have a good one out there.
Later. Watch some movies.